Tonight's DJNTV show is sponsored in part by Electro Voice, DJ Event Planner, ADJ, NLFX Professional, Promo Only, and DJNTV Insiders.
Welcome, everybody, to the PHDJ Podcast. My name is Mike.
And my name is Joseph Bunn.
And we have, Joseph, you're being very formal. We have a special guest today, although you don't see him. So if you're watching this on YouTube, you're only seeing like two letters DB, I assume. Is that what you're saying, Joe?
No,
I don't even know.
I think you see a little picture. He's very handsome.
But you'll hear, you'll hear him. Say hello to everybody. This is Brian. Let me see if I got the last name correctly. Buonassissi.
Nailed it.
Yes, yeah. Worked on that all week.
I wouldn't mind changing my name to that, Joe Buonassissi. That sounds pretty good.
It wouldn't be much, right? It's just elongating your name. That's all.
Maybe it used to be.
Yeah. How are you, Brian?
Good. I shouldn't say that. I'm faking that. I'm actually sick as a dog. I don't know what happened over the weekend. I just caught some bug. So it's probably good that you're not seeing me.
Yes.
Probably. Yeah. We should make up some excuse. Blame it on the PC. Blame it on the camera being used for another app.
Right.
Blame it on the fact that you're just way too good looking, and Joe and I didn't want you on the video. Any of those.
He has great hair.
Or D, all of the above.
There you go.
Are you in New York, Destin, Florida, Italy, Montana, or California?
Just give us a continent, Brian. Just what continent?
No, I'm in the city today. It's in the city today.
Nice.
Leave on Friday. Head down to Tallahassee, Florida, for a wedding.
Okay.
We're going to get to your travels, Joe, Brian, and we're going to talk about that as we go on. But yeah, you travel more than I think any DJ I know. You are all over the world. It's amazing. It's amazing.
It is pretty amazing.
So I want to make you feel at home, Brian. I know you do a podcast every week with KC.
Yeah.
And you usually begin by rattling off 25 names of people who are watching, which I have criticized in the past, and because I think that's a very boring way. So should I start this podcast by just throwing out 20 names and say, "Hey, welcome to blah blah blah"? I don't know. I feel like is that the right way to start?
If you so choose, feel free.
I'm only kidding.
Mike, it's your show. It's your
speaking
show.
Speaking of KC, we are. I think when this launches tomorrow, we're 10 days away from Marquee. Is that correct?
I think so.
Yeah, it's about a week and a half. So tell us. I know you were one of the first speakers, Brian, to be announced, and I know you're speaking at the conference. What's your time slot? Do you know?
Yeah, I think I'm on Monday. I believe I'm like the second or third speaker up. So
nice.
In the morning for sure. And speaking on, I'm delivering a new talk, and I've still got to work out the title. I'm still working that out. But the basic idea is how to get the luxury clientele, which is something I've been working on for the last 2 years anyway.
Yeah.
But there's definitely a difference in what they're expecting, and I don't think it necessarily has to be the latest and greatest gadgets, which a lot of people think that that's the best way to get to luxury, is to have the newest stuff. And I think it's just more being present, and awareness is the big key. So you can literally deliver a luxury product to your existing clientele and grow it that way. And so I'm going to get some tips.
So that's a cool teaser, and I think you shouldn't give us the entire seminar right now, but give us. You said you're going to give a variety of tips. Give us one. So if you could give us one, this way it's a little bit of a teaser. And by the way, Marquee, I'm not making it. Joe, you're making it, right?
Yes, I'm.
The roster looks amazing. So I know we're 10 days out, we're a week and a half out. I would imagine it's probably last minute for most people, but especially if you live in the Chicago area, I think if you can still, and you haven't bought your pass yet, you should look into it, and you probably should. So Brian, give us a little bit of a teaser of what people would learn and take away from your seminar specifically.
Sure. Well, one is we always do Monday morning quarterbacking as a team. And one of the ways we do that is we have all of our guys fill out a post-event form we have like a secret back page. And then myself and our GM, Sean, we go through it and we we basically look through different ways we can improve, and we've really honed in on that form to be a SWOT analysis. So we ask questions like, what are the strengths? What were the weaknesses of the event? What were, things that we can improve on? And that's helped initially, but we took it a step further because we feel like now we're not delivering a bad product whatsoever, but we can always improve. So one of the takeaways that I'm going to throw out there is we created an email address called Things to Do Differently at bboyproductions.com, and we require our guys to send in at least one or two things that they can see that we can do differently, not necessarily better, but just differently. And so we've compiled this list over the weekend of maybe 10 things that our guys are seeing that we can do better or differently, and it just improves our process even more. We're refining and refining and refining it to get even better.
Okay.
Brian, I like what you just said about, it's not like you're doing bad gigs and you need to improve on that. Like, you don't need to do a 360 and turn your entire company around. But I think it's very wise for any company, even if you are delivering amazing service, to look for ways to improve. You know what I mean? I think that I had a very similar conversation with one of my DJs this week. I edited a demo of him, and overall he threw a great party. But there were 2 or 3 things that I felt he could have done differently, and I brought him in, and I said that to him. I said, I am not obviously responding to a complaint or a bad gig or a bad performance, but I think these are small things that you could tweak to make it even better.
Right.
And I think it's companies like yourself and people like yourself, Brian, who stay on the top of their game because they don't respond to problems, but they respond to, hey, things are going really well, but what could we do to make it even better? And I tip my cap to you for doing that.
Awesome. Yeah. So it'll be things like that I'll throw out there.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool.
And again, go ahead, Mike. Sorry.
Well, I was just going to ask, and the rest of the conference, I was going to throw this out to both of you. Joe, you decided to go. It was kind of a last-minute thing. What are you looking forward to learning? And Brian, are you sticking around for the entire conference? And who are you looking forward to hearing from?
Go for it, Joe.
100%. Not just because I wanted to hear him speak, but I definitely wanted to see Brian, see some other comrades in the industry. I'm definitely taking one of our booths, our Vision DJ Designs booths. It'll be on stage for the in-house DJ, the whole conference. So I kind of wanted to show people that, especially people in the Midwest area. And then also just kind of spread the word and the love about the podcast. But, I'm always up for, I always go to the seminars. I don't, sit at the pool or go tour the city. You'll see me right there in the mix with everybody else. I looked at the roster and it just kept growing. And again, there were, sorry, I don't have it in front of me right now, but definitely several people, including Brian, that I wanted to see. So I just kind of shifted from originally going to the podcast convention in Philly and shifted into the DJ conference instead.
And for me, I'm looking at people that I haven't seen speak before, like Michael Strabelli. He's like one of those guys who's just changing the game in the event industry. And I've wanted to see him at the special event show that he has his top 10 or whatever. So seeing him speak would be huge for me, and guys like that. Of course, I always like to see our industry people like, Matt Radicelli always does a great job as well. But the people that I haven't seen, there's somebody from Yelp who's going to be there as well, which I'm interested to see what they have to say. Anya from the Knot. So there's a lot of folks that I'd like to see that I don't get a chance to see outside of DJ conferences.
Agreed.
Very cool.
Agreed. Yeah,
very
I'm excited,
cool.
Man.
Yeah, I can't make it, and I mainly can't make it just because I had another trip booked the week after that, and it's hard for me to do 2 in a row. But I've been following the progress, and I hope KC hits a home run with this. I like the fact that he has marketed this. We talked about this on an earlier show, Joe.
Yeah.
So aggressively, and I hope he. I've spoken to him a few times along the way. It sounds like ticket sales are good. He set the bar pretty high, so I don't think he's going to hit his own bar. But for doing a show for the first time in this industry, and especially because attendance seems to be trending down in shows, if anything, it's like this might be the worst time to get into doing a show. I think it's overall going to be a success, and I look forward to hearing from both of you afterwards and giving me an honest recap.
100%. Brian, let's shift gears over to Engage. I want to talk a little bit about Engage. I feel like including myself, maybe even Mike, that we don't know a lot about it. I've never attended one. So I just first want to, rewind and kind of talk about one of the first ones that you went into, and then obviously your most recent one that you're coming back from. Just kind of how you got into it, how it's helped you. Just give us an overview of the conference called Engage.
Sure. Well, it actually started when I moved to New York City. I was coming into a brand new market, and up to that point, I had been in 2 other markets previously. So California is where I started, and then Florida. And I don't know, call it luck, call it just, I don't know, being good at what I do. I was easy to get into those markets. Come to New York, it was so tough. Yeah. There was just so many people. Yeah. And so I think, Mike, you referenced this last podcast of yours where you said you're kind of like the Nordstrom's or I don't know what store you used as a reference.
Yeah, I did. I said Nordstrom's. Yeah.
So there's a lot in that space, I feel like. I mean, not a ton, but there are a lot in the New York market in that space. And I would also say like below that, like Target or whatever, there's a lot in that space. But I didn't see a ton in the Barneys and in the top tier Bergdorfs or stuff like that. It's usually reserved for bands most of the time. Mm-hmm. Right. And so I thought, man, I want to try to go after that market because that market seems to be untapped. I haven't seen anybody at any of the shows who's in that space. Mm-hmm. And so I thought that was just a real opportunity to create a niche. And so looking into that space, I saw that everybody who was in that space was going to the Engage conference, which is essentially the luxury market, the top tier of the event industry. And these are people, not just DJs, but designers, planners, photographers, you name it, anything in the event space. And so I looked into it. Someone told me that's where you need to be, and the first one I looked into, it's super expensive. It's like $3,500. Yeah. $3,500
is for the pass. Does that get you? That doesn't get you there.
That does not get you there. That is just the fee. So I thought either this is the biggest sham I've ever heard, or this is the most amazing conference ever.
The next point of your career, right? One of the right.
So clearly I didn't have that in the budget, and I try to operate on a cash basis, so not going into debt or anything like that. So I thought, well, I'm just going to have to save. Yeah. And so I missed the first one, and the next year I put it in the budget, said I'm going to give this a shot, and I went, and it was amazing.
When didn't know that was, Brian? What year do you think that was?
2014, I think, maybe.
Okay. Just curious.
And I didn't know anybody.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm literally a fish out of water. Not only was there no DJs there, there was like...
Imagine that, Mike.
That's Brian, DJs won't pay $300 to go to a conference. Forget about $3,500.
Right.
That's wow. Yeah.
Right.
And where was this? Where was the first one?
This was in Mexico. So Nazook was the name of the resort. So
because if I understand, Engage moves around, right?
It does. Different... Yep. And so when I went, I felt like such a novice because here are these revered industry leaders that I had no idea who they were. I mean, Mindy Weiss is one of them, and she comes up there, and I'm like, well, I mean, she looks nice. She seems to know what she's talking about. But come to find out, she's like done all of like the Kardashian parties and just all these high-end J-Lo's events.
Brian, give us an idea of attendance. How many people are at this?
So it varies between ones they do, but anywhere from 180 to 350.
Okay.
So it depends. This last one was 360, I think, actually.
All right.
So, and in the entertainment space, what I found is that it's a lot of agencies. There's one in New York and LA called Elan, which is probably one of the biggest, and the reason why these agencies go is because they not only have bands, but they have specialty acts like, jugglers and, I don't know, stilt walkers, all these different things that are really out of the box.
Aerialists and stuff
band.
Like that.
Yeah, exactly. So when luxury is all about how can you be different and one-off kind of yourself from everybody else and set yourself apart. And so a lot of people are looking for those kinds of things. And that's why those agencies have been so successful. But in the DJ space in particular, they have that as an option, but it's never anything that they're going to make a ton of money on. They don't specialize in that. So the DJs in that sector are very, I don't know, mediocre at best, I would say. That's just not something that and it's not their fault. It's just that they're not looking to develop that talent.
Right.
And so I thought that's a great, place to go after because no one's really specializing in that. And sure enough, I've had to change people's perceptions of the DJ because they've seen is the underlings of an agency who doesn't focus on that.
Right.
Yeah.
And so it's been great from that standpoint. And I've seen a lot of traction. And I would also say, too, that there's a lot of one-and-doners. There's somebody who saves their money, they go to this, and they don't see the ROI right away. And so they're like, I'm out. And just like anything, it's about building relationships, and they have to see your face. They're not going to just hire you just because you decided to come one year. You have to be there frequently. And so someone mentioned that to me, and I thought, well, I need to make the investment to go again. So I did it the second time, and I saw
Brian, I'm sorry. Is it once a year?
So they were doing it twice a year. Then they expanded to 3 a year, and then this year now they're doing 4.
Wow. Someone's making some coin off of that.
Yeah, no doubt. And so this year they went to Italy, which was in Sardinia. And then this last one was in Canada, which was in Banff. And unbelievable. If you've never been, that's a bucket list spot you got to check out.
Wow. And in 4 years, Brian, you've gone from attendee to you actually participate now, right?
Right.
Are you not the DJ, on stage DJ or something like that now?
Yeah. So
I have that right?
Yeah, you do. That was my trick. I was trying to figure out, okay, so now that I've met these people, how do I get in their face and show them my skill set? Because unlike photography where you have like a reel, I didn't have anything like that outside of just my own kind of videos I was taking on my phone. I don't have a videography company. So I saw everything was top tier except for at the actual main sessions, they didn't have anybody playing music as people were walking up. There was no, they were literally announcing everybody from the side of the stage. I'm like, oh my gosh, everything else is top tier except for this. And I thought this is my way of getting in. So I pitched them my idea. I said, listen, I think I can add value to doing this by emceeing for you and also, playing walk-up music. I think it's just going to make a huge difference. And so they gave me a shot. And it was like night and day difference for them. And I love creating vibes and not necessarily just dance parties, but looking at how to create the energy and feel of a place as you're walking in. And so they gave me the shot. And ever since, they've asked me back to keep doing it. And so that gave me my first way in, which was great, but it still didn't showcase my party capabilities until this very last one. I finally got in to do a after party, and believe it or not, the band at this last one actually took a breaks, which most bands that have come to Engage, they don't. They stay on for the full 3 hours or however long the gala is. And this one took breaks, and their break music was, I don't know, just like weird EDM that's just low tempo, like Kygo kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. And just the energy dropped completely. People were like, whoa, this is so odd. And so that we had the after party, and the text and the love that was coming in after that was like, oh my gosh, we had seen you do your intros and stuff, but we had never seen you do a party. And so now I'm starting to see the fruit of that, and we'll see how it all pans out. But I'm hoping to get more of those kind of opportunities.
And so we talked about this at the top of the show about you traveling around the world, and when we say that, I don't just mean vacation wise. You travel around the world and get gigs. Have a lot of those come from the relationships that you've started in Engage, or is that something differently that you're pursuing?
Well, I would say I've always traveled to mediocre markets and places that were just, I shouldn't say that if we have somebody listening from French Lick, Indiana, but you know what I mean? I had a lot of those kind of events where people were coming to Florida and California because those are destination markets. And then they would be like, hey, can you do a bridesmaid would come up and say, would you be willing to come to my hometown and play? Because we don't have DJs that are like this. And so that's how it initially started. Now I'm kind of going after that international audience, and those are all at the Engage conferences. Those are the kind of planners that have the coin to afford to bring all their friends over to, to Italy or whatever. And so I'm starting to get a couple more of those now. I actually found out I just lost one that was going to be an Australia event for 2 weeks in December. But the fact that I even was able to pitch it to them was quite the experience in trying to figure out how do I create this proposal in a country I've never been to and figure that out. So it's never been easier, but it's never been harder, because it's kind of a dichotomy, right? Because Instagram and things like that, you're able to find people a lot easier, but there's so much noise. It's trying to figure out how you cut through it.
Cutting through is the difficult thing. So other than attending Engage, do you have any advice for our listeners? If we have listeners that say, hey, I'd like to break into that market, I'd like to be doing gigs in Italy and Germany and maybe even Australia from the States, any advice other than get yourself to Engage? And
why
and
would he
start
tell them? He wants to do them all himself.
Yeah. No, I think there's enough pie out there for everybody. Well, one, I would say build your skills first. I mean, that kind of is like goes without saying. If you're going to be sought after, you got to be good enough for them to find. Like, why would they hire you if they're going to just, if you're mediocre at best? So definitely build your skills. And then the biggest piece of advice would be to break into one market first. So if it's like the Caribbean or whatever, like look after those kind of planners who are going to those markets and learn that market. Like learn what the end things are. It's just like doing it here in the States. I mean, if I were to go to New Orleans as an example, there is a certain style of music that you have to know going into New Orleans. The Zydeco stuff. You have to know what hip hop artists are big. You can't play any of the stuff that you'd play on the West Coast there. So kind of learning some of that intricacies and the local flair of what's happening is really going to be important to make yourself sought after, and then move on to the next one. So focus on one market first before going on to a bunch of others and spreading your wings too quickly.
So do you have a dream location that you haven't DJ'd in yet that you are dying to?
Asia.
Asia.
Okay.
I just have always wanted to do something in Hong Kong or Tokyo, something like that, and never had an opportunity yet. So I'm looking to try to get in there and figure that out.
Anybody listening that books shows in Asia,
connect with Brian.
Back to Brian Buonassissi.
Yeah.
Right. Exactly.
Very cool. Well, you know what, guys? I suspected when we got on this call that it would be more than one show's worth, because I thought, I know you, Brian, very well, and I know you've got a lot of stuff that you could share. And we're already about 25 minutes in. So do you still have some time for us? Can we wrap this episode and record another one that will drop the week of July 4th?
No problem. Let's do it.
Joe, you want to do that?
Yes, sir. So this is the end of episode 1. Thank you guys for listening. And again, PHDJ Workshop's coming up March 2019 in Las Vegas, phdjworkshop.com. Sign up. And thank you, Brian. And we will be back with episode 2 next week. Thanks, guys.